You are 17 years old. A wreath of fragrant myrtle crowns your head, your hands trembling beneath layers of borrowed silk. Outside, Rome erupts with torches and laughter, a celebration of purity, of union, of a future the city claims to bless. But inside this dim, echoing chamber, a door closes. A priest whispers a prayer older than the Republic itself. And you begin to understand the truth. Tonight is not your wedding night. Tonight is your sacrifice to a ritual Rome tried to bury, erase, and deny. A ritual where innocence becomes an offering. A ritual that has destroyed more women than any war Rome ever fought. So what really happened on the wedding nights Rome vowed never to speak of again? You are born into the soft glow of a Roman dawn, a world where the walls whisper stories of duty long before you can walk. In this world, a girl is not merely a daughter. She is a vessel sculpted for someone else's future. And from the moment you can form a thought, Rome begins shaping it. Your mother tells you that a good Roman woman keeps her voice low, her eyes lowered, and her footsteps quiet. Virtue, she reminds you, is louder than words. You believe her because she says it with a kind of distant sadness that makes you wonder who taught her those words first. In the atrium, where sunlight falls through the open roof like a single divine spotlight, tutors recite the stories of old marriages, how brides were chosen, how vows were sacred, how union was a blessing. They speak as if marriage is a gentle path lined with laurel and honey, a destiny wrapped in gold thread. You listen, you nod, you internalize, and slowly, Rome settles inside you like a second heartbeat, because from childhood, they teach you to lie first, that marriage is honor, that obedience is safety, that a woman's purity is a treasure for her husband, not herself. They place dolls in your hands, tiny wooden brides with stiff, painted smiles. Practice, they say. Someday this will be you. You cradle the doll and imagine a gentle husband, a soft wedding night, a whisper of love beneath woven blankets. But late at night, when you hear the older women washing clothes at the fountain, you catch broken fragments of whispered truths, the shivering silence, the tears no one is allowed to name, the rituals the city insists never existed. You ask about them once. Your mother's hand freezes mid-stitch. She looks at you with eyes that are suddenly very old. Some questions, she says quietly, are forbidden by Rome, and so you stop asking. You let the myth wrap around you like silk, because no one has told you yet how silk can become a shroud. As you grow, Rome grows inside you, not as a comfort, but as an expectation. At 14, your relatives begin to evaluate your posture, your walk, your waist. They discuss you like property in a marketplace, as if your body were a map of value, instead of a home you've lived in your whole life. Every assessment feels like a small theft. Your father, a man of rigid discipline, begins to speak differently around you. He weighs your worth in alliances and influence. He avoids your gaze when the conversation turns to marriage contracts, as if his distance will spare you. It doesn't. The first time you see the man chosen for you, he is pouring wine for your father, older, confident, the type of man Rome respects, which is exactly why you fear him. Your mother avoids your questions. Your father avoids your presence. Your aunts keep smiling. And then come the preparations, subtle at first. You are taught how to tie the notice, the sacred knot brides must wear in their hair. It symbolizes fertility, they say, but the way their fingers tighten the knot, almost painfully, feels like a warning. You are taught to walk behind the man, not beside him, to speak less, to listen more, to obey instantly. A dowry chest appears in your room, heavy, wooden, carved with scenes of goddesses who had no freedom of their own. Inside it are linens, jewelry, and the faint smell of a childhood you're about to lose. Days pass, Rome watches, and finally, on the morning of your wedding, the house wakes before the sun. Servants bustle, relatives pray, and neighbors gather outside to witness the ceremony. You stand before the mirror, wearing layers of white cloth, your skin glowing with oils, your lips stained with crushed berries. You look like a bride, but when you touch your chest, you realize your heart is pounding like that of a girl being led to judgment, because deep down, beneath the layers of silk and ceremony, you feel it. Something is terribly wrong with this night. You just don't know what yet. As afternoon turns to dusk, the city begins to glow with the flicker of torches. The procession gathers outside the door, musicians, relatives, neighbors, all ready to escort you to the house that will no longer be yours to leave. You stand in the atrium where you once played with dolls, where you once imagined a gentle marriage. The marble floor is cold beneath your feet. The lamps cast long shadows on the walls, distorting your reflection until you no longer recognize the girl looking back. Your mother approaches quietly. Her hands adjust your veil, the flammeum, dyed a deep flame orange, symbolizing both fertility and submission. It falls over your face like a curtain of smoke. "You must be brave," she whispers, though her voice trembles. You try to smile, but your lips won't obey. She places a small piece of wool in your palm, a token brides carry for luck. It is soft, almost tender, but in your hand, it feels like the last thread of life that is slipping away. Outside, drums begin to beat. Boom, boom, boom. Each strike echoes through your ribs. Your father appears in the doorway. For a brief second, he is not a Roman patriarch. He is just a man looking at the child he must give away. His jaw tightens, but he says nothing, because Rome has no words for a father's regret. The procession begins. You are led through streets crowded with onlookers. They cheer as if this is a celebration, not a dismantling. Women toss nuts, a symbol of farewell to your childhood. A child grabs your hand briefly. You squeeze back, needing the innocence you're losing. Your future husband walks ahead, never once looking back at you. At his threshold, a priest steps forward. He raises a torch, mutters a blessing, and motions you inside. Your foot crosses the doorway. You feel something leave you, a part of yourself small and terrified, that will not follow you into that house. Inside, the door closes. The music fades. The night begins. And the ritual Rome tried to erase begins waiting for you in the darkness. The moment the door shuts behind you, the world contracts. The torches outside fade into muffled echoes, and all that remains is a heavy Roman silence, the kind that presses against your ribs like a second body. The air smells of oil and incense, thick and unfamiliar. You are no longer in the city you grew up in. You are in a world built for one purpose, to unmake you. Your new home stands like a monument to masculine order. Every statue, every mosaic, every cold slab of marble whispers authority. The atrium here is larger than the one in your father's house, but it is emptier, as if nothing warm or human has lived in it for years. Your husband walks ahead, without slowing. His steps are firm, practiced. Yours are hesitant, trembling. You try to match his pace, but your sandals slide on the polished floor. A priest waits inside, robed in white, holding a narrow clay jug. You feel his eyes sweep over you, not with affection, not even with curiosity, but with evaluation, as if he is measuring whether you are fit to be broken. He gestures for you to approach. "This house accepts you," he says, "and binds you." His words carry an ancient weight, thicker than the walls around you. You've heard the phrase before, whispered in ceremonies and old stories, but tonight it feels like a sentence. He pours a thin line of wine onto the threshold behind you. The liquid stains the floor like blood. It is a ritual offering, a symbolic sealing. Your entry into this home is permanent. Your return to your old life is forbidden. You don't breathe. You don't blink. Then the priest reaches for your wrist. His fingers are cold. "Innocence enters once," he murmurs, but does not leave. Your husband says nothing. But when he finally looks at you, truly looks, you understand that the girl who crossed the threshold tonight is not expected to survive until morning. You always believed rituals were sacred, beautiful, a bridge between mortals and gods. But tonight, you begin to understand a darker truth. Rituals are tools. Tools that Rome uses to control bodies, hearts, entire lives. The priest moves closer, his robe brushing the floor like a ghost. He begins preparing the chamber, a small, dim room lit by a single oil lamp. Shadows tremble across the walls. Nothing about it feels warm or intimate. It feels ceremonial, purposeful, suffocating. Your husband stands by the doorway, watching silently as the priest arranges objects you've never seen. A bowl of salted water, sprigs of laurel, a strip of woven wool. They should be symbols of blessing. Tonight, they feel like instruments. Virginity is a boundary, the priest intones. Rome must witness its crossing. Your stomach tightens. You knew a priest would bless the marriage. You did not know he would remain after. You glance at your husband, searching for reassurance, even a moment of softness. But he offers none. His eyes hold the calm expectation of a man who has seen this ritual performed many times and never questioned it. The priest dips his fingers into the salted water. He marks your forehead. The salt stings, sharp enough to startle you. This purifies her, he declares. Purifies, as if you arrived dirty. As if the mere fact of being a girl made you unclean. The laurel leaves are placed near your feet, a symbol of victory. Ironic, because tonight, the only victory is Rome's. The strip of wool is next. He binds it loosely around your wrists, not tight enough to restrain you, but tight enough to remind you that restraint is the point. Your voice trembles when you finally speak. Is all this necessary? The priest's eyes narrow. Tradition is not questioned, he says. It is obeyed. Your husband's silence agrees. The room seems to shrink. The shadows thicken. Every symbol, every step, every whispered chant feels like a cog in a machine you never saw until it was too late. And the machine is preparing you for something you cannot yet name. Something Rome tried to erase, because no empire wants to remember the rituals built on fear. They do not ask you if you are ready. Rome never asks. The priest steps closer, lifting the lamp so its light rests on your face. You flinch at its heat. Your veil, the flammeum, is slowly drawn back, revealing your eyes, your trembling mouth. The youth there are about to turn into a memory. Let her see, the priest says softly. A bride must witness her own transformation. Transformation, a gentle word for what feels like a dismantling. He touches the wool knot in your hair, the sacred notice. You were tied as a maiden, he whispers, and tonight you will be unbound. Unbound, another gentle lie. What awaits you is not freedom. He begins to circle you, chanting phrases older than the Latin you were taught. Words used in rituals long before Rome pretended they didn't exist. You feel your heartbeat in your throat. Your hands grow cold. Your breath shakes. Your husband steps forward now, for the first time since entering the house. His presence fills the small room, casting a long shadow that engulfs you. The priest hands him the clay jug. You will complete the binding, he says. Your husband pours a small spill of wine into his palm. He looks at you, not cruelly, not kindly, but with the distant authority of someone who believes this is simply how the world works. He presses the wine-soaked palm to your collarbone. The touch is cold. The wine trails down your skin like a thin red tear. This marks the passage. The priest says, you swallow hard, but your throat is dry. You feel exposed, inspected, redefined. The wool bindings on your wrists are tightened. Not enough to hurt, just enough to remind you that resistance is not expected. The lamp flickers. The air thickens. The priest steps back. The ritual is ready. The chamber waits. Your childhood, your innocence, your illusions, all of them hover on the edge of collapse. Because now you understand, the ritual is not about love. It's about Rome claiming what it believes is its right. And the moment the lamp dims, the night will claim you too. The priest does not leave. You thought his role ended with blessings, chants, and symbolic gestures. But when he steps closer, instead of stepping away, you feel the terror bloom fully in your chest. Your husband nods to him. The priest nods back. And with that silent exchange, you understand. Whatever is about to happen has been done before. Often, quietly, intentionally. The priest walks to the heavy wooden door and slides a bolt across it. Click. The sound is small, but it hits you like the clang of a prison gate. Your breath quickens. The wool around your wrists rubs against your skin. The oil lamp flickers, throwing jagged shadows that twist across the walls like dark hands closing in. You will remain still. The priest says, stillness is purity. Your legs feel weak, but you stand frozen because you don't know what disobedience would bring. And because the way both men are watching you has stripped the room of air. He circles you again, this time slower, more deliberate. A spectator, an overseer. Your husband removes the sandals. The faint scuff of leather on stone is shockingly loud in the suffocating silence. The priest lifts the lamp higher, angling it so its glow falls across your face, forcing you to keep your eyes open, to witness every moment. Rome must see, he murmurs. But Rome must never speak of what it sees. Your stomach twists. This is the secret, the forbidden truth passed through generations like a curse. The ritual that mothers don't describe, priests won't admit, and men pretend is holy. You step back instinctively. The priest's voice lashes out. Do not retreat. The command strikes like a whip. Your spine snaps straight. Your pulse hammers. Your husband's hand brushes your arm. The first physical contact between you since entering the house, and even his touch feels ceremonial, not human. You are no longer a bride, no longer a girl. You are the offering, the ritual object, and the night has only just begun. He doesn't say it out loud, but you feel it instantly. You are not allowed to scream. The priest stands near the wall, expression empty, waiting like a witness placed by tradition or cruelty, or both. Your husband moves closer, his shadow growing until it swallows yours. The chamber seems to tilt, the air thickening with unspoken rules. His fingers reach for the notice in your hair, the sacred bridal knot, the symbol of maidenhood. No one ever told you how it is untied. He pulls the wool knot apart, not gently, but with a slow, practiced motion. The sound of fibers separating is almost intimate and devastating. With each loosened twist, you feel something in your chest unravel too. You want to cry. You want to disappear. You want the priest to turn away, to give you even one shred of dignity. He doesn't. Silence, he murmurs again, though you haven't said a word. She must remain silent during the transition. Transition. Another lie disguised as ritual. The knot falls apart. Your hair spills down your shoulders. A moment that you feel liberating, but instead feels like the final confirmation that nothing you once owned, even your own body, belongs to you anymore. Your husband traces the wine mark on your collarbone. The priest watches. The lamp hisses softly. You try to breathe, but each breath feels stolen, like you must earn it. You want to ask, why must someone else witness this? Why can't this be between husband and wife? What sin have I committed to deserve an audience? But your lips stay cold and still, because you realize something cruel. This ritual is not about you at all. It is about Rome's claim over you, a system ensuring that no bride enters marriage untouched, not by choice, not by desire, but by ritual authority. Your innocence is not taken. It is documented, and silence is the first rule. The moment you feared, the one whispered about by women at fountains, hidden beneath layers of denial and shame, arrives quietly, without ceremony. Your husband reaches for the wool binding around your wrists. For a heartbeat, you hope he will remove it, free you, offer tenderness. He doesn't. He tightens it just slightly, enough to keep your hand still, enough to remind you that resistance is not part of ritual. His breath brushes the back of your neck. The warmth should comfort you, but instead it suffocates. Your vision blurs for a moment, your knees weakening. The priest steps closer, adjusting the lamp so it shines directly onto your face. You must not look away, he says. Your husband's hands move with the certainty of someone performing a role rather than expressing desire. This moment isn't about intimacy. It's about expectation, obligation, ownership. Your heartbeat grows loud in your ears. Too loud, a roaring tide of panic. Your breath escapes in a sharp, involuntary sound, barely more than a gasp. The priest's voice lashes instantly. Silence. The word strikes you harder than any physical force. Tears gather, unbidden, but you force them back. You swallow your voice. Because now you understand why older women avoided your questions. Why your mother's eyes were haunted. Why Rome pretends this ritual never existed. Not because it was forgotten, but because it was unforgettable. The room closes in. Your innocence shatters, not from a single act, but from the crushing realization that your body is no longer your story. It belongs to tradition, to patriarchy, to a system older than the Republic itself. When it ends or pauses or shifts, because endings and rituals are never clear, you feel hollow. Not broken, not yet, but emptied, like your soul has been scooped out and set aside to make room for the woman Rome demands you become. Your husband steps back. The priest lowers a lamp. The wool around your wrists loosens at last. Your legs give way. Your breath shakes. For the first time tonight, no one speaks, because there is nothing left to say. The ritual is done, and so is the girl you used to be. Dawn creeps into the chamber like an intruder, spilling pale light across the floor where your veil lies crumpled, a bright orange flame extinguished in the night. You wake slowly, not because you're rested, but because your body is unsure whether it's allowed to move again. Your limbs feel foreign. Your breath feels borrowed. Your skin feels like it belongs to someone else. The room is quiet now, the kind of quiet that feels heavy, not peaceful. The priest is gone. The lamp is burned out, leaving behind a faint smell of charred oil. Your husband sits at the far end of the room, as composed as if nothing sacred or violent occurred here. When he notices you stirring, he gives a nod, not of affection, but of acknowledgement, of completion. "It is done," he says simply. You flinch at the words. It, as if last night were an event, a transaction, a ticked obligation, not a night that carved itself into the deepest parts of you. He stands, reaches for the clay jug, and pours water into a small bronze basin. "Washington, we will go to the hearth." You move stiffly, like your bones have forgotten their purpose. Every step toward the basin feels like stepping out a shadow that never fully lets go. You stare at your reflection in the water, rippling, distorted, almost unreal. The girl who entered this house yesterday is gone. In her place is someone quieter, someone hollow-eyed, someone who has learned the cost of being a Roman bride. Your husband doesn't notice your trembling. Rome never notices tremors. It only measures obedience. You wash because you're told to. You dress because it is expected. You step into the sunlight because the world outside must never know what happened in that room. And as the morning wind brushes your cheek, you realize something tragic. The city celebrates your marriage today, but you are mourning it, because last night wasn't a beginning. It was a burial. The household gathers at the central hearth, the sacred heart of a Roman home. The flames crackle warmly, completely unaware of the cold you carry inside. You stand beside your husband, robes neatly arranged, hair brushed, face composed. The perfect new wife. No one can see the wool burns on your wrists. No one can hear the echoes of the priest's commands still ringing in your skull. Your mother-in-law approaches with a smile carved from marble. She places a small cake of spelt in your hands, a traditional offering. "Welcome," she says. "May harmony fill this home." Harmony. The word makes your stomach ache. You kneel and offer the cake to the flame. The fire eats it instantly, sparks shooting upward like tiny screams. Everyone nods approvingly, pleased by your grace, your quiet, your compliance. Your husband's hand rests on your shoulder, a gesture of possession, not affection. "She learns quickly," his mother remarks. You lower your eyes, because modesty is expected and silence is safer. As they speak around you, as servants move gracefully through the house, you begin to understand the unspoken rules of survival. Rule 1. A Roman wife never lets the world see her pain. Pain must be hidden beneath silk, like a stain no one can wash, but everyone pretends not to see. Rule 2. Your voice is a privilege, not a right. Use it sparingly. Use it carefully. Use it only when asked. Rule 3. Last night is never mentioned. Ever. Not to your mother. Not to other wives. Not even in prayer. Your value now lies in your composure. Your worth is measured by how convincingly you can pretend that the ritual was sacred, not scarring. That the night was holy, not horrifying. That you emerged stronger, not shattered. "Come," your mother-in-law says gently, "let me show you your duties." And you follow, the good wife, the perfect Roman bride, even as your heart screams for someone to ask if you are all right. But no one will, because Rome considers your suffering a tradition, and tradition is not questioned. Days turn into weeks, and your life becomes a pattern of quiet servitude. You rise before sunrise. You weave, cook, clean, offer prayers, maintain the household accounts. Your every movement is measured, observed, judged. You must move with grace. Your mother-in-law reminds you. You must speak gently. You must not show anger. You must never displease your husband. Each instruction chisels away at you, like a sculptor carving a statue from a living woman. Your husband, meanwhile, inhabits his world with ease, discussing politics at dinner, supervising slaves, attending gatherings. When he looks at you, it is with satisfaction, not affection, as if you are a well-trained instrument fulfilling its purpose. And yet, a strange change begins inside you, not rebellion, not strength, something quieter, observation. You start noticing everything. The servant girl who hides her bruised wrist beneath her sleeve. The older wife who smiles too brightly whenever her husband speaks. The young bride next door who cries softly at night, but greets the morning with a practiced smile. You realize you are not alone in your silence. Rome has built an entire city out of silent women, and you begin learning how they survive. They speak through glances. They rebel through small gestures. They hold on to tiny, private pieces of themselves, a secret thought, a memory, a rhythm of breath that Rome cannot steal. You start doing the same. At night, when the house sleeps, you sit by the small window in your chamber and touch the faint marks left on your wrists. They are fading now, but the memory is not. You make a promise to yourself, one spoken only inside your mind, where Rome cannot reach. They can shape me, but they will not own me, not completely. You inhale deeply, feeling the air settle differently in your chest. You are no longer the girl Rome prepared. You are the woman Rome created. And in the quietest corner of your heart, you begin to wonder if Rome has made a mistake. The house had not changed. The corridors still smelled of olive oil and dust. The fountain still whispered over worn marble. The household slaves still moved in a soft, frightened rhythm of people trained not to disturb the air around their masters. But something inside her had shifted, so subtly that even she did not notice it at first. It began with a question, a small question, so small that it should not have mattered. Her husband had left early that morning, summoned by a magistrate. She sat in the atrium, embroidery in her lap, watching the thread coil between her fingers like a serpent. A young house slave, barely 12, approached nervously. "Domina," she whispered, "shall I trim the lamps or leave them burning?" Her training urged her to answer efficiently, passively, exactly as she'd been taught. But instead she lifted her eyes and said softly, "What's your name?" The girl froze, as if the question itself broke a rule she had never been allowed to articulate. "Lydia," she breathed, a human name, a small, forbidden spark inside a system built on silence. From that day forward, the questions continued, not bold ones. She was not foolish enough to reveal the cracks inside her armor. Instead, they were quiet. Did you eat today? Are you cold at night? Does your mother still live? Small rebellions, invisible ones. Because Rome feared the small things most, the whisper exchanges, the shared glances between women, the tiny conspiracies that could one day turn into something larger. And she began to see patterns. The older maid, Sura, always lingered near closed doors. The kitchen attendants stood in careful clusters, falling silent when a man entered. Even the noble women who visited for afternoon gossip had glimmers of knowledge in their eyes. A quick dilation of the pupils when someone mentioned wedding nights, rituals, or the old laws. They all knew something. Something Rome pretended did not exist. And she began to realize that within the quiet machinery of the household, there was a shadow network of women. A network older than the rituals that had been used to break them. A network waiting to be recognized. The first time she discovered the network deliberately, it was an accident. She entered the garden at dusk, seeking air. The pergola smelled of jasmine. The sky was the color of bruised wine. She heard whispers, not fearful ones, but purposeful, almost rhythmic. The kind of whispers exchanged by people who knew they could be punished for them. She stepped closer. 3 women knelt beneath the fig tree. Sura, the elder maid, the midwife who sometimes visited the household, and an old freedwoman who sold herbs to the kitchen. Their hands worked a basket of wool, but the conversation drifting between them was not about weaving. "Another girl married last night," the midwife murmured. "Poor thing," the freedwoman sighed. "They say she didn't make a sound." Surah shook her head. "That's not strength. That's despair." The midwife's voice sharpened. "Or conditioning." A longer silence followed, the kind that carried shared pain. She stepped forward before she could stop herself. What conditioning? 3 heads jerked up. For a heartbeat, she saw fear. Fear that she had come as a spy for her husband, fear that she might expose them. But something in her face must have spoken for her. The midwife's shoulders relaxed first. "You've seen it," she said gently. "Rome calls it tradition. We call it what it is." Surah gestured for her to sit. "We meet like this often. Some nights we pray for the girls. Some nights we teach them what Rome won't let them learn." "Teach them what?" she whispered. "Teach them," the freedwoman said, placing a hand over hers, "that they are not alone, that they are not cursed, that what happened to them was not their shame." The word struck her with such force she had to look away. Not alone, not cursed, not her shame. For the first time since her wedding night, she felt the weight inside her chest loosen, not lifted, not erased, but shared. And shared burdens begin to change shape. Once she entered the circle, her world rearranged itself. The women did not speak openly. Rome punished open defiance. But they shared a language beneath the language, a way of surviving that no law could fully suppress. Surah taught her how to read a room the moment she entered, which men were dangerous, which ones were merely performative in their cruelty, which ones had cracks in their armor. The freedwoman taught her the meaning behind simple gestures, the way a wife adjusted her veil, the way a slave girl avoided torchlight, the way a mother touched her daughter's wrist for 3 seconds rather than 2. All messages, all warnings, all roads to safety. The midwife taught her the old knowledge, the kind whisper across centuries. "How many women have you delivered?" she once asked. "Hundreds," the midwife said, "but I have saved far more from the things men do to them." The lessons turned subtly toward power, how to influence her husband's decisions without him noticing, how to redirect household finances, how to protect slaves from harsher punishments, how to speak so that men believed ideas were theirs, even when they came from her. This, the midwife said, was a quiet rebellion Rome never managed to stamp out. But the most important transformation happened inside her mind. She began to think in 2 layers. One for Rome, obedient, controlled, perfect. One beneath it, calculating, remembering, resisting. The women did not tell her to rebel openly. They knew what happened to women who did. Instead, they taught her something Rome feared more: how to rebel intelligently, how to rebel quietly, how to rebel in ways the empire would never see coming. By the end of the month, she knew the truth. Rome had tried to break women for centuries, but women had learned, in return, how to break Rome from within, and she was ready to choose her place in that hidden war. Winter crept over the city with a kind of brittle clarity, the kind that stripped trees bare and made every sound echo louder than usual. Rome's streets grew harsher in the cold. Even the markets felt quieter, as if the city's arrogance dimmed when its marble shivered. It was during one of these quiet mornings that she faced the crossroads she had been avoiding. Her husband had summoned her to the triclinium. He lounged on a couch, oil lamp flickering behind him, casting unsteady shadows across his face. "There's a girl," he said, "a relative from the countryside, orphaned, young, 12, perhaps. Her guardians wish her to be married quickly." Her stomach tightened, not in fear, but in recognition. He continued, unaware of the storm he had unleashed. "They have asked us to host her first night, a gesture of honor. Honor, Rome's favorite lie." She heard the words beneath the words, the ritual, the brutality, the old silence waiting to swallow another girl. For a brief moment the world seemed to fracture. The fountain outside dripped rhythmically. The torches hissed. The memory of her own wedding night, that cold, merciless hour, pulsed like a reopened wound. She could keep her place. She could obey. She could be the perfect Roman wife Rome wanted. Or she could refuse and risk everything she had slowly built, a choice like a blade held to her own throat. That night, she returned to the women under the fig tree. Sura looked up immediately, reading the storm in her eyes. "What's happened?" the old maid whispered. She told them. The freedwoman's jaw clenched. The midwife muttered a curse older than Latin. "You know what they expect you to do," Sura said quietly. "I do," she answered, "and I won't do it." The silence that followed was not shock. It was respect, because this was not a small rebellion. This was the act Rome feared most. A woman choosing who she would be, not who Rome demanded she become. The days that followed were knife-edged and fragile. She began planning carefully, weaving her rebellion into the seams of routine. Defiance had to be subtle, precise, an act so quiet that even Rome's judgmental walls could not accuse her of it. First, she intercepted the girl's arrival. When the child stepped into the atrium, too small for her sandals, too thin for her bridal veil, she greeted her not as a hostess, but as something closer to a shield. "You will stay with me tonight," she said gently, guiding the girl away from the room prepared for the ritual. The girl looked confused, relieved, frightened all at once. She fed her warm broth. She held her trembling hands. She told her stories of the stars above Rome, stories that had nothing to do with fear. And then she did something even more dangerous. She taught the girl the truth, not the brutal details. The child had already lived enough horror, but the knowledge women pass in whispers. "What they want from you," she said softly, "is not fate. It is tradition, and tradition can be rejected." The girl's eyes widened, the kind of realization that changes a life's direction. Later that night, she went to her husband. "I will not give her to that ritual," she said calmly, not with anger, not with apology, simply truth. He stared at her, stunned by a resistance he had never expected. "Do you defy custom?" he demanded. "I defy cruelty," she said. His face darkened, not in rage, but in disorientation. Rome had never taught its men what to do with a woman who said no without trembling. Her voice remained steady as she added, "She will sleep in my chamber, and tomorrow she goes to the household of your sister, where she will be safe, and where the ritual is not practiced." Her husband hesitated. She could see it, the internal battle between habit and reason. And then, astonishingly, he nodded, not because he agreed, but because she had spoken with the controlled certainty of someone who no longer sought permission. Her quiet rebellion had changed the course of one girl's life, and perhaps, in time, many more. The girl left the next morning, escorted to her new home, wrapped in a fresh shawl she had gifted her. She watched from the threshold until the small figure disappeared around the corner. When she turned, Sura stood behind her. "You've done more than save her," the old maid murmured. "You've set a precedent. A dangerous word, a powerful one." From that day on, the women's network grew bolder, not openly, but in the invisible ways rebellion thrives. A gesture in the market, a whispered warning between noble women at baths, a midwife who paused the ceremony to ask a forbidden question, "Is this truly your will?" Her influence began to ripple outward through Rome's quiet corners, the parts of the city historians never wrote about, the spaces where women lived their real lives. But the greatest change happened within her. She had once believed survival meant silence. Then she believed survival meant endurance. Now she understood the truth. Survival meant legacy. Months later, Rome celebrated a festival. Torches burned along the streets. Musicians played. Children ran through the plazas with laurel crowns. And she walked through the city no longer as a girl who entered a ritual she did not choose, but as a woman who had dismantled one. Not with blade, not with laws, but with decisions made in the shadows where Rome never looked. As she passed a group of young brides, one of them met her gaze. A silent acknowledgement, a spark of understanding. A message passed from one generation to the next. "We are not alone." She lifted her head. For the first time, she felt that the weight Rome had placed on her shoulders no longer pressed her downward. It steadied her, like armor shaped through suffering. The empire had shaped her, but it had not claimed her. and it would not claim the girls who came after. She had become something Rome could not break, and something Rome could never erase.